Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another gameplay impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Grim Fandango for the PlayStation 4. This title was sent to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. Now, Grim Fandango is a title that is rather old. As a matter of fact, it was released in October 1998 by Double Fine Productions, and if I remember correctly, this title was only available for the PC. I'm not entirely sure since it has been quite a while since I've seen Grim Fandango. Now, something that definitely surprised me was a presentation not so long ago. I think it was one of the Gamescoms where they presented this on a PlayStation conference, and a lot of people were like, oh my god, Grim Fandango, just like losing their minds. And me personally, I guess this just never was the kind of game that really appealed to me all that much. But still, since I got a code, I figured, you know what, I'll just take a look at it and see what the game is like right now. Because essentially, this is the same game that people played in 1998, except it's been made playable for the PlayStation 4 with a couple of improvements. Now, I can't really go back and listen to old audio or anything like that, so I can't really be sure if the audio has been greatly improved, but what I can tell you is that the audio doesn't sound like it's from 1998. It doesn't sound present date, like the quality isn't the best, so to speak, but it is pretty damn good for a title that was released all the way back in the day. And the sound is actually really important in Grim Fandango, at least in my opinion, because the voice acting is actually really, really good. Not only the voice acting is really good, but the writing of the game is also very solid. Now, on top of that, you also have this interesting art style, which is definitely not going to appeal to everyone. The art style of, you know, just people that are cadavers and whatnot, and when you go to the land of the living, the art style gets all messed up. For some reason. It is a very unique art style. It is the best I can say to really describe it is that it is interesting, but it isn't necessarily something that appeals to me as personally all that much. The story, on the other hand, is really good from what I've seen so far. I've never really finished Grim Fandango back in the day, because once again, this is not the type of game that I am personally that interested in. But it is the same storyline as the original. It is the original. It's just been remastered with a couple of improvements on the graphics and whatnot. So let's talk about the graphics, which is probably what a lot of you guys are going to want to hear about. Now, they actually made something that you can press the L3 button to see the old version and the remastered version, just so that you can see that the game used to be real pixelated if you take a look at it from today's standards, particularly when you stretch that to a 1080p resolution, because the game clearly was not made to be run on 1080p back in the day. And even the remastered version, you can see that they struggled a little bit with it, because essentially the game is in 4:3 aspect ratio. Now, you're looking at it, and most likely you're looking at it full screen. This video is post-commentary, in case you guys haven't figured that out. You're most likely looking at it without any borders. That is because there is a mode that you can activate in the game that essentially stretches the 4:3 aspect ratio. And interestingly enough, it doesn't really damage the game to stretch, which is weird to say, because usually, I mean, you think about games that are 4:3 aspect ratio, and it's like you stretch them and you would just completely destroy the game. But the thing about Grim Fandango is that it's got this unique art style that, to be honest, I don't think I've ever really seen this kind of art style in another video game since Grim Fandango. But since it's got that unique art style, stretching it actually does not necessarily break the game. But if you don't like stretching it, you can also go ahead and switch back to 4:3 aspect ratio, and the game runs just fine. Now, you will notice that some of the more cinematic scenes and whatnot are actually not running at what you would expect from a frame rate standpoint. That is because these are pre-rendered videos. There's a lot of mixing of pre-rendered with actual, you know, in-engine cinematics and whatnot. There's a lot of playing around with that, because that is how some of the programmers kind of dealt with the limited hardware capabilities that they had back in the day. So obviously you're going to be seeing a lot of that. So sometimes you will see something that is very pixelated because it's actually in a pre-rendered cutscene, and then when you actually see the characters themselves when the cutscene ends, you'll notice that they're a lot sharper than they were during that specific cinematic. On top of that, this game is essentially played on 2D backdrops that were designed to just, to give you the illusion that you're in a 3D scenario, but it's actually a 2D backdrop. And those backdrops, I can't really say that there's been a lot of improvement. As a matter of fact, I remember switching between the remastered version and the regular version, and I couldn't really tell much of a difference. Now, this being a puzzle-like adventure type of deal, I think this was essentially wasn't it even a point and click back in the day? I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's been a long time, and I never really played all that much of Grim Fandango. Like, I played just a little bit of it, and it wasn't really my style, but I do believe this genre at the time was more of a point and click type of deal. Now, the controls work fine. If there's anything that I struggled with a little bit is whenever you are walking from one backdrop to another, and let's say you're walking left, but when the backdrop changes, you need to be walking right. Your character would like go back to the previous backdrop. You know what I mean. I mean, those of you who've played games like this, I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. So that is the only real thing that I've noticed with the controls. But again, it's just, this is one of those games that is for a very specific group of people, particularly people who enjoy the type of old LucasArts adventure games. Those guys are definitely going to love Grim Fandango. People who played Grim Fandango in the past are probably going to have a lot of nostalgia towards this title, and now it is going to be playable on your PlayStation 4 as well as your PlayStation Vita. The animations are also very good. I mean, particularly for the time, because I don't think they redid the animations for the remastered version. So I think the animations are actually really, really good, which is something that I probably couldn't appreciate at the time because I was just a lot younger than I am now. But again, I kind of have to say that the real selling point of Grim Fandango has to be its story, its voice acting, and the writing. And I say story and writing in separate because, there are some games that have a good story, but the writing is a little bit awkward. Whereas in this game, I mean, just have this particular scene as an example to give you an idea.
Hey, Funny Bones! In my office! Now! You vandalized company property in order to obtain secret information so you could take your illegally modified company car and your unregistered driver and run domino here off the road! All in order to steal a client from her legitimate agent!
There's nothing legitimate about this place. You give all the good clients to Domino.
Manny, now I'm embarrassed for you.
You know what I mean? I mean, doesn't that just sound awesome? I mean, the writing, the dialogue of the characters, and even the story elements that are being played out. I think it's really, really cool. Now, in case you guys are wondering what the story is all about, you're going to be controlling Manny Calavera, who is some kind of he's not really a reaper, even though he kind of dresses as one. He's essentially a salesman of the dead. Kind of. This game has a lot of references to the Mexican culture, I feel. Like about the whole Day of the Dead and all that kind of stuff, because that is kind of the art style that they're going for with the game. But essentially, your character is trying to pick up people who died, and he's trying to sell them packages of the best way for them to go through, to make their journey on to, it's not really heaven, but basically, according to the game's story, everybody has to go through a journey that takes 4 years, and they have several plans of how these people can go on that journey. But essentially, this all depends on how they behaved in life. So say, for instance, if a nun died, and if you were able to, get a nun as your client, so to speak, then the nun would have credit for the best package of whatever, and doing that, he earns a commission, and he has a debt to the dead for some reason, so he needs to keep working to pay it off. Yeah, I know, it's a little bit convoluted, but getting any more into it than that is probably going to get into spoiler territory, which I really want to try to avoid. Now, beyond that, the characters are also very interesting, at least in my opinion. Again, this is not my kind of game, mind you, but I find that the characters in Grim Fandango are really, really interesting. There's the mechanic Glottis, who completely changes your car into a friggin' hot rod. There's the IT guy who has like a Russian accent or something, and he's just crazy about doing maintenance on the server, which happens to be this machine that distributes tubes throughout the agency and whatnot. It's really funny. Another thing that I really like is his scythe, how it's kind of like a blind man's cane, and then it unfolds and it becomes like Death's scythe. I think that's a really funny thing. But having said that, there's also a couple of things that I feel are some mechanics that are a little bit dated, that maybe haven't really aged well according to today's standards. Things like, for instance, okay, so you want to get a client, right? I'm going to give you guys a minor spoiler at the start of the game. You want to get a client, right? You want to get a premium client so that you can earn a fat commission, so that you can work off the years that you have in servitude, right? And so, essentially what you got to do at some point is you got to go to the street where there's a dude who's got balloons, and you got to ask him to give you 2 empty balloons. Then you go back to a place which is like, it's like what do you call those? A mortuary place where you're just going to embalm people, almost. And then you got to fill those balloons with 2 different types of embalming fluid, almost. And then you got to drop them down the pipes, and then they're going to explode, and they're going to form this mass, which is going to crash the server. Once the server crashes, you have to go talk to the server maintenance guy. And then once you do that, you're going to have to lock an open door so that once the server maintenance guy exits, the door stays open. And then you go back in, and then you get your first really important client. Like, I was thinking to myself, how the hell are people supposed to figure this out? I mean, I don't know. But I feel that those mechanics are a little bit dated. But then again, that might just be me, because this is also not really my kind of game. Apart from that, I mean, this is Grim Fandango. I was a little bit disappointed that the best that they could do to fit this into 19:6 or 16:9, I mean, into a 16:9 aspect ratio was to essentially stretch the 4:3. I was hoping they would do, something else with it, maybe improve a little bit on the backdrops. The backdrops also look very pixelated once you stretch them, and even if you don't stretch them, you can tell that these backdrops are a little bit old. So, I mean, those are some of the kind of things that you're going to have to expect from this remastered edition. But having said that, the edition runs just fine. There's also a couple more features that maybe you would wish would be there, like autosave. It does not support autosave. You have to manually save every time. And every time that you actually have to go into save, I want to say that I feel that the saving process takes quite a while, It takes quite a bit for you to actually save a game, and it takes you out of the game, the fact that you have to manually save to begin with. So that's another feature that I feel could have been a little bit better worked on with the remastered version. There's also, you can have director commentary of the game if you so desire, which is a part of the special features of the remastered edition. So you can be playing and you can be listening to the director's commentary of the person who directed the game. I didn't really test out that feature all that much because I wouldn't that be kind of confusing? Like, wouldn't you be listening to dialogue and listening to someone else talk at the same time? I'm not exactly sure how that would work out. But for those of you that are huge fans of Grim Fandango, you will probably appreciate those features. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's Grim Fandango on your PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. If I had to pick one platform to play it, I think I would probably go with the Vita version, although I haven't really played the Vita version. I'm assuming there's no real problems with hardware. I mean, let's be honest. This is a 1998 game, I've just played the PlayStation 4 version to get a feel for it. But the reason I say that is because I kind of feel that the old backdrops as well as the character models, even though they've been improved and whatnot, I just think they're going to look a lot better on the Vita's smaller screen, as opposed to the PS4's larger screen in 1080p, where you're going to be seeing all the flaws of the old backdrops and stuff. But again, maybe if you're a big fan of Grim Fandango, maybe you don't mind about that. And if you're not a fan of adventure games in general, of the stuff that you're watching on screen, then you're probably not going to enjoy Grim Fandango all that much. But yeah, this is Grim Fandango for the PlayStation 4. That's my opinion on it. It's not really my kind of game, but I still feel like the game is solid, particularly, like I said, the writing. I just feel the writing really is what does the game. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Leave me all your comments and feedback in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.